I know so many artists who don't post anything and they are amazing artists. It's like I work with people like
Yes.
that. I work with people like that. They are not known at all, and they're incredible artists. So
Yeah.
there's this thing. It's like some people don't want to bother. Actually, it's like if you post something online, that's gonna come with a lot of questions after that, and that's gonna come with some hate as well. It's like there's a lot of stuff that happens online, and I'm doing this like since 2002, I believe. So it's almost like 20 years. And I remember like for years, I just didn't want to post or share anything because it's just too much trouble.
You're listening to Art Heroes Podcast, the show to help you thrive as a digital artist. Tune in to learn how to transform your passion into a career. Get inspired by other kick-ass 2D and 3D artists and find out what it takes to be an art hero.
Okay, we're now live. Kris, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Maria. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, finally. I mean, we've been trying to schedule this for so long. I know you're super busy, but I was like, okay, this is probably never going to happen, and finally, this is happening. So I'm actually pretty pumped. Yes. So thanks again.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so Kris, so that we don't lose a lot of time, I'm just gonna dive right in, and actually, I'm just gonna start from you because I can go like for a long time introducing you as a digital artist and as a sculptor and as an expert in like humans, digital humans and everything. But how do you what's your favorite way of describing yourself? How would you normally introduce yourself?
I don't know. It's like I'm a creature modeler at work, right? So that's basically like anything that's organic, and but also I do a lot of hard surface at work. So, but the thing is, like, I don't describe myself as a specialist in anything. I mean, like, I'm struggle with a lot of different disciplines, and it's like it's always like hard work, right? Like, if you ask anyone who accomplished anything in life, it's always like hard work. It's like but the struggle is always like every single model is a struggle. Things get like a little bit easier because you get more experience the way you do things, but it's always a struggle. I mean, there is always like someone kicking your ass. It's like someone who is much better than you and everything. But yeah, I mean, like that's a good thing to have because it keeps pushing me, to learn more. Every new model I try to improve and do something slightly differently. And but yeah, just like
Cool.
in this life to learn, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, right. And then what's your current, you said like there is always a struggle. Somebody's kicking your ass. So,
Yeah.
what's your current like list of struggles? What are you trying to achieve? Like, because you obviously know how to do many things,
Yeah.
like
Well,
creature and etc. related.
yeah, I mean, like I started in this industry. Like my first job in the industry was as an animator. So I was just animating, right? That for a movie called Barnyard. And it
Okay.
was like a cartoon movie. It's like animated for about, I would say, like 10 to 11 months in that company. But I was doing a lot of modeling on the side, posting in forums like CG Talk back in the day. Now it's CG Society, right? And then ZBrush Central. And then, so I got like lots of front pages and stuff. I won a couple of challenges. And that gave a lot of, kind of like I became a little popular back in the day. That was like, I don't know, like 2004 or something like that.
Yeah, I was
And
just about to ask actually. Oh, yeah.
yeah. And then some job offers started to show up, and then I moved to Cafe FX after Automation Studios as an animator, but also a modeler, and kind of like a generalist. It's like I was doing some texturing as well, and then from that point, I mean, like I worked in a couple of movies, and there was like Pan's Labyrinth, Evan Almighty. Pan's Labyrinth was actually pretty cool. Evan Almighty, not so much. But and then from that point on, someone who was a recruiter at Automation Studios, which was the studio that did Barnyard, she was working at Lucas, and then she contacted me and she said like, "Oh, there's a new project in here. If you're interested," I was like, "Sure." So went for an interview, and then they interviewed me, and they asked me for my demo reel. I got like both demo reels, like for animation and for modeling. But by demo reel, I mean like I had a bunch of files in my laptop. I never had like an official demo reel. And it was like I packed stuff in a laptop, went there and showed them. And the supervisor he said like, oh, we really like your animation stuff. It's really good, but would you mind like switching and doing just modeling from now on, because that's what we think it's your strength. And I was like, oh, that would be awesome. And that's how we started. But yeah, my struggles nowadays, I mean, like the whole thing about portraits to me, it's kind of like a recent thing. It's like I would say I did a bunch of those like back in the day at Zebra Central, some portraits and stuff, some humans, right? But like portraits, trying to get like some kind of like realism and things like that. It's just like, I would say like maybe like 3 years ago or something like that, I started to actually try to push and use more Arnold, it's like switch to Arnold. And then that was it, it's like I started getting more results, like doing my personal work. And then people started asking questions about like, oh, how are you doing this? Are you planning to teach classes? Blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't my intention at all, at first. And then all of a sudden, like we started like really struggling financially here, because we live in Marin. It's like the most expensive place in the country here. And so basically like living paycheck to paycheck, me and my wife, And then we had a problem with our roof here, was leaking, And I said like, we need some money to put a new roof. And then, but I don't know what to do. And she says, like maybe try to
teach a class.
Yeah. And that's how I started, it's like, it was all in function of like this whole thing about like necessity to do something about the house, but never like as something like, oh, I have to create a company and then establish that and become like a school or something like that. Never the intention. But then when I started teaching, was the first one was very informal. And then yeah, I'm gonna have to do something about this, because now there is interest and a lot of people start contacting me. And straight away I got like enough people interested to have like 3 full classes.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, now I'm gonna have to do something about it, because it seems like more serious than I'm supposed to be. And then I kind of like created my own, corporation, right? Like it's a little company, because it helps with taxes and all that stuff. But never intention of growing or anything. And I was actually really surprised, it was like for the whole year, I mean, like it was pretty steady, a source of income. And the fact that I'm doing this on my own, it's like I don't have like to be split with anyone or anything. So it's been very, very good for us, financially. I don't know for how long it's going to last, like the interest, but every time I do like a new model, a new class, I try to learn something else and introduce to it. I try to keep things, it's like fresh, kind of like introducing different character types, it's like different ethnicities, different ages, genre. And my next one is going to be probably someone who is not like your ideal, character or beauty or anything. He's going to be like someone who has a physical condition, And I always have this thing about like, maybe it would be cool to have a series of characters that are not like, don't fit in the mold, It's like
flawed characters or something like this.
Yeah, flawed characters, it's like with physical problems or, it's like, or some kind of disease that's a rare, it's kind of like illness or something like that. And there's this character that I thought it was like, he's very interesting. It's like very powerful little creature, and I think that's going to be the next one. Like I said, it's going to be in August. It's something that I try not to go too far from being like, it's like in terms of a facial study, right? So everything applies. It's like we're going to be sculpting pores, wrinkles, all that stuff, like going to be paying attention to the primary forms, secondary forms and everything. But it's just in the context of a different kind of character, It's just like you have more variation. And also the cool thing that I do is once the students, like if a student buys like one of my bundles that's like 3 classes, or do the live class, for example, from that point on, I sell like the other additional classes if they need one, for example, like a specific one, for a much, much lower price, It's like, and so kind of like it's cool because a lot of my students keep buying them, It's like, even though the content is very similar, each character has a different set of challenges, and then sometimes it's the skin color, sometimes it's like the hair or whatever. And then and even for me, I mean, like I when I start the project, I don't know exactly where it's gonna go, and then in the middle I end up like learning a lot of stuff and approaching it a different way. Sometimes I fail like right in front of my students because it's like everything is recorded and edited, So when I fail, I say like, I'm struggling here, but I'm gonna do some study tonight, and then tomorrow I can come up with a solution, something that is like to help you guys out and to see if I can get out of this puzzle here, right?
Right.
And there's always a way. So it's just like it's just learning with the
Cool.
process.
Cool. So, all right. So, like now, I pretty much know what's the structure of the class like, and what happens. Like, do you still freelance, or what's your major thing, like day to day? Kind of what kind of stuff you're busy with outside of the school?
Yeah. So I am a full-time employee for Lucas. So I work like 8 hours a day that doing like visual effects. And they keep me busy, so that's great. It's like it's a very weird industry. A lot of stuff is going overseas, and it's like it's been pretty hard like for years now. But I'm part of a group in there that somehow we manage to survive every time. I don't know for how long. I don't know for how long, but so far I'm employed. And then so that's like my day is about like 9 in the morning to 6 in the afternoon, like it's like working. Since I'm working from home, it's a little bit more relaxed in a way that I can take like little breaks and
that's now. I mean, like right.
Be with my kids. It's like I still like my wife is a nurse. She's out of the house about 3 to 4 times a week. So I have to, it's like cook for them and then watch out and he's like pay attention, like it's like the TV shows and stuff like that, policing a little bit, so yeah, it's a little bit more work for me. There's a lot in my plate, so it's like kids stuff mixed with work.
I can't imagine.
And then when my wife comes back, I mean, like we have our dinner together, we spend some time together, and then I go back to my computer, and then it's time to do some personal work. And by personal work at this point is like either is sculpting something or revisiting some model that I did in the past, trying to improve it, or dealing with the school itself, it's like replying to messages, replying to, the group that we have on Facebook. So it's a lot of stuff. My brain is always like 100%. And it is hard, it's like,
of course,
but it's the kind of stuff that I don't want it any different. It's like sometimes I get like completely burned out, and then I need to take a break like for good. But I don't know myself like different than this. It's like I remember like being 16 years old and buying my first computer. I had like was a MSX, and then later was an Amiga computer. And then I remember like missing school in the morning because I would be like trying to figure out something like at 2 in the morning at the age of 16, And now I'm like 48, and then that's my life, It's like I go to bed at 2, 3 in the morning, It's like trying to figure things out, learning stuff, reading stuff, watching videos, It's like it doesn't change, man.
Crazy. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Kris.
No, it's just like your body actually suffers because now you're not 16, right? Like things like
you're still up at 2, like, and stuff like that. I know.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that we've got a bunch of questions actually that come not from myself, but from my community and from a bunch of Art Heroes kids. So I'm just going to throw in these questions from time to time. Just really, and some of them actually I wanted to ask. So for example, there is Ed Winter who's asking, why is it actually fly on the wall?
Fly on the wall. Yeah, it's I mean, like it's first off, it's one of the recordings from AC/DC, right? Like it's one of their albums.
Oh, now I see.
No, but I'm just kidding. It's just one of those, right? Fly on the wall is because when I was doing this this plan, right? Like I posted like a very informal message on Facebook saying like, we need a new roof. We need, so here's the deal. I'm willing to actually teach a class. And then you guys pay me money to watch my class so I can put a new roof in my house. That's basically like the gist of it. And the way it's gonna work is basically like it's like you're a fly on the wall. That means that it's like anything that I'm doing here, I want you guys to be able to see. Basically, like as if I wasn't aware that you're in the room. Basically, like if I'm doing my work here, this is my pipeline. This is the way I approach things, and I want you guys to be completely exposed to that. That's basically it. Being a fly on the wall in a sense that not because like, oh my God, look at this guy, he's a god, he wants me to be a fly. No.
Yeah.
It's just like you are in the room with me and I'm not aware that you're there. Although I'm interacting with people, so the dynamics is a little different. But original idea was to actually have people like watching over my shoulder, basically.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, that absolutely makes sense. Is that actually how you studied, or like what was your own like personal learning process?
Yeah, my learning process was always like, like coming from Brazil and not having access to a lot of information like forever, right? Like we didn't have access to a lot of stuff. And I come from a small city too. So art books, for example, we didn't have access to any imported stuff. Everything was pretty much like, and then later on, when I grew up and I moved out of that city, like I went to Brasilia. So the world kind of opened up, it was like I had access to all kinds of books and stuff. But like I was always just like the same with a lot of Brazilians. We start learning and we have a software that's completely in English and you don't speak English, so you have to figure it out. And you figure things out by poking like buttons. It's like you save your scene and you go in the menus and you go like one by one, what does this thing do? It's like in the experiment with it and check the manual and see like and eventually you start learning a little bit of English and all this stuff. But nowadays people have it so easy, it's like with so many tutorials available like for free. And there are classes like Marlon, it's like you guys, like amazing stuff, content in there. And then there are my classes. There are a bunch of friends of mine with classes. There's Noman, a lot of stuff, But the way I learned was basically like by myself, it was like just like, self-taught for the most part. But I think like going to college for fine arts was really good in terms of the concept behind the work. It's like, for example, the ideas behind the work. We didn't have like a strong department like for a sculpture, for example. It was like pretty much none. We had a very good like a drawing, anatomy drawing teacher, which was really cool. But I think the part that actually I was more interested in during that time in college was the part about like psychology and things like that. It's like how ideas can have an effect. It's like in other people, and then I also like the part of about the composition. It's like how you can drive guide the eye towards the piece. It's like to go to the parts you want people to pay more attention to. So all those things I think like was very cool, like to be in college, like this formal education about this stuff. But in terms of sculpting and other things is pretty much like self-taught. So my way of approaching things is very different from what we do at work, for example, right? Like the professional work we do is everything is like there's a pipeline that's completely planned, and you have to be precise. Like the naming conventions and everything, because there is always someone waiting for you in line to pick up that file and go with it and take to the next level, and then goes back to you. It's like, so that's this constant back and forth with other people. And that means that sometimes like if you do a pass in your model, sometimes you wait days until you can see a result because it has to go through all those steps. And then, so when I start teaching those classes, I kind of like try to simplify this whole thing and make people understand that you are in charge of the entire thing. So that means that you don't need to wait for things to happen. So in one single night, for example, the way I approach, I start with a model. It can be just a sketch in ZBrush, and straight away we try to bring it to Maya with Arnold and start setting up a scene already. It's like, so you have something you can just iterate on from that point on. So, and then it's just a back and forth kind of thing. So you go refine your model some more. So in the same night, since I use like HD geometry ZBrush, you can export a full set of maps in a few minutes, like 5 minutes, 8 minutes, instead of like waiting hours for it to be exported, like if you do HD geometry. So that way, in a single night, I can have like 3 full iterations. That means like a new pass in the displacement map, which is like resculpting the model, a different pass on the painting using polypaint, a different pass on the hair, for example, tweaking a few things here and there. So because you are fully in charge of the model, like in a single night, you can have like 3-4 iterations, and the model can look very different from, when we started and then 3 hours later, So
wow.
Yeah, that's my philosophy. Like, it's try to push the work forward and have as many iterations as possible, it's like in a very short period of time. yeah, it's like very different from like a professional pipeline, you know. It's like, and it's something that I learned like, and I feel comfortable doing. And it's kind of like it's proven in a way, because I mean, I keep teaching and my students keep, you know, producing results. So I can tell like after a year. If it was something like, okay, after 2 months teaching classes, I don't see any results, I'm failing, you know, as a teacher.
100%. Like we do exactly that thing. If actually,
Yeah.
if the students advance and you actually see how they are improving, that's a good sign. Like if it works on so many people, yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. So
And
after
so,
a year, it's like, yeah, like I'm happy, you know, it's like with the stuff that my students are posting, and they make me look lazy now, you know, it's like a lot of them are cranking a lot of great work.
well, there are many as well. So you
Yeah.
know, that's not really a bit about being lazy. Actually, I've got a question here from Halma Louvre, and the question is really pretty much aligned with what we're talking now. So, the question is how to get faster at creating realistic and good like characters without doubting too much. And I would top it up with my own question, meaning like when you're talking about iterations, would you ever deviate and say like, okay, let's try to make it this direction and that direction and then see which option was better? Or you would always like progress further and further and further?
Yeah, like my approach is kind of like it's never turning back, you know. The model sometimes like morphs into something else in the middle of the thing. Sometimes I have an intention and then I figure out like, oh, maybe going stylized in this case is not like the best approach, so I go more realistic, you know. But it's kind of like a never looking back, you know. It's like one of my students said that like it's impressive that when you go, for example, like to start sculpting, you do not use a lot of undos, right? It was like, yeah, I use a few, you know, but it's always like if something doesn't work out, I erase it and I resculpt it, you know, that area specific. But always like trying to push forward, because to me it's always like if I do that many times, in a way, it's a good way for me to internalize that. So the next time I approach that same area, it's much easier. It's always like in that spirit of hard work paying off at the end, you know. And then the first. And then the first question you had was about, sorry?
How to go faster.
Oh, yeah. So I would say like being fast is it should not be the focus ever, you know? Okay. And that goes like for music as well. I mean, like going faster and learning how to add super fine detail to the model. I mean, like those are things that should be like the last thing you should be thinking about. I mean, like getting faster comes with practice, and that's it. I mean, like there's no way to get faster if you're not doing if you're not doing a lot of the same thing over and over and over again. That means practicing, right?
Yeah.
And then the part of you know, it's like getting faster. Let's say like how can I get fast doing super realistic models, right? There are things you can use. For example, like in terms of fine details, since I sculpt everything by hand, it takes me a long time. It takes me many hours to put all the detail in there, like all the pores placed and wrinkles and all that stuff. But you can use like texture XYZ, for example, right?
Yeah.
And then a lot of stuff done much faster, you know. It's like with a different pipeline. Some people use Mari, something like that. But in my case, I mean, like since this is personal work, and I want to improve as an artist, what I try to do is like, I want to struggle. I want to do this by hand because I want to learn, you know, it's like how those structures, you know, talk to each other. And then how can I understand, you know, it's like what's the human skin, you know, it's like what happens, you know, when it stretches, you know, all kinds of stuff. Because I think like having access to everything we have at our job, like my professional job, having access to scans, having access to all kinds of alphas and textures and everything, you know, everything is more technical. So basically, like you get like a model, you just match a blueprint, you know, and then you stamp the, you know, the textures, the skin textures in there and everything, and then you're done, you know. So that way you can go pretty fast and do that in a fast way. But if you're trying to do something to improve yourself as an artist, I mean, like it's counterproductive to just strive to become faster, you know. It's like it doesn't work like that. Try to strive to become a better artist, and then if you're repeating the same process many times, eventually you're going to get faster. It's the same for any musical instrument you want to learn anything, Yeah.
Right. So, just for the record, how long does it actually normally take you to make a character from scratch when it's not at
Yeah.
work, but like for yourself?
Yeah. So those characters doing the classes, for example, right? I spent about 4 weeks working on them. And obviously, I'm not working full on during the class because the classes are 2 hours, but for like an hour to an hour and 15 minutes is basically like talking and back and forth and explaining and theory and all that stuff. And sculpting is probably like 30, 45 minutes each class, right? Which is a lot. I mean, like I can go through a lot of stuff during that time. But and then obviously after the class is done, I sculpt for another hour or 2 hours before I go to bed, and then rinse and repeat. And then it's like it's like during the weekends I spend a couple of hours as well. So I would say if I put all things considered, let's say if my let's say 30 hours to 40 hours to do a model like during the time of the class itself. But then I'm never happy at the end of the class because there's a lot of tweaks that are needed. So I put another week to 2 weeks in there. So I would say like more realistically, I would say 60 to 80 hours to do a character, and I'm talking about a bust, right? It's just like the head and shoulders.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So because I go full on, it's like, in terms of detail and stuff. And it's not like just that, right? Like I used to, for the past couple of classes, at least, I'm talking about like the importance of the secondary forms more than the tertiary forms, right? Because I mean, like if you're working in a media that's traditional media, you're gonna need to have like a complete understanding of the primary forms first, right? So everything has to be nailed before you can move to the next level, right? So you keep refining. But if the proportions are wrong, there's no way to, to fix it later on, just like by stamping a lot of stuff there and putting a lot of wrinkles. But with the CG, I mean, like it's such a different beast, because that's what I try to tell my students, it's like my approach is different, very different from a traditional approach. I have my primary forms established, but not perfect at all. I mean, like there's still like some proportions that are not quite there and everything. But because the class has to keep moving on, we go from that point, we establish the secondary forms, right? And then next week, we already starting to put like some tertiary forms, which is like pores and wrinkles and everything. But at least we have a base that's the primary forms are good enough. But then from that point on, we work on everything at the same time. So we're going to be revisiting the primary forms at any point. We're going to be paying a ton of attention to the secondary forms, especially like if you're working with someone of a little bit older, right? Like there's a lot of sagginess, there's a lot of stuff happening, it was like some of the landmarks of the bone structures like being revealed, and so there's a lot of room for secondary forms, and that's the part that actually adds like the realism, I believe. It's like see like my face right here, like I have all those different forms that I didn't have like years ago. It's like things start changing. And there's a lot of room for introducing like more character, it's like just by paying attention to those very subtle changes in form.
Right.
You change the lighting slightly, it's like my nose looks completely different. So it's like, that's the thing that fascinates me the most, it's like, it's mostly like secondary forms. And then the tertiary has to be just like that little cherry at the top. And it has to have enough detail to drive your eye to look at some areas. For example, like as humans, we are specialists in looking at other humans. Since you're born, we're looking at our mom's face, right? Like, so you understand like emotion, like unconsciously, it's like since ever. And also the little things that make a face, a human face, a human face. And for example, like there are little marks, it's like in your brows or in the nasolabial folds. Things like, it's like micro wrinkles that under your eyes, for example, like the lower eyelids, right? Those things, I mean, like your eyes, they can get, for example, tricked by looking at something more generic, for example, like the skin of your cheeks or whatever. But then they always going to search for those landmarks, it's like those little spots in your face that identify you as a human, and then that's basically what I use, like the tertiary forms. Obviously, I do a lot of pores everywhere and everything, but there's always like some little details that are hand carved. For example, like if you look at my one of my latest ones, that's the albino model that I sculpted. The princess is posted on ArtStation. You're gonna notice like that overall her skin, because she's a young person, it doesn't have a ton of detail everywhere, but your eye is gonna go and gonna be first, like you look for some kind of connection with whatever you're staring at, right? So you're gonna go straight to the eyes. And then when you look at the eye might look realistic, but what about the surroundings, right? If the surroundings are not realistic, it breaks the illusion. Then you're gonna, if you start paying attention, then you're gonna notice some of those micro wrinkles I sculpted very carefully underneath the eyelids. And that's the kind of stuff that your eye is gonna be driven, it's like you're gonna look at that and it's gonna, at least for a second, it's gonna trick you, to believe that there's someone, it's a live creature, it's like it's a live human that's in there. And then obviously, because we're such picky bastards, right? And artists like us, gonna start like, oh no, but here you see like the hair here is not good. Oh yeah, but here the lips are not, I can see that's not very very realistic. But the intention is to always create this illusion of life, even if it's for a split second, that people recognize the work and they believe that's someone who is alive, And then after that, if they want to take it apart, it's like pick it apart, it's fine. But as long as you trick them for a fraction of a second, I'm happy with that, So that's why I tell my students, it's like the intention in my class is not to create something real, because we are not dealing with scan data or anything. It's simply to create something that's believable, something that looks alive as an artistic piece. I mean, like there's no way to recreate something that nature created. I mean, like there's no freaking way. You start zooming in into the skin, you're gonna see all kinds of like very complex structures, And it's always a matter of like how far you're gonna be from the work, It's like, is it worth to put all this detail, or you can get away with a little bit less if your intention is to render like from a certain distance, right? Work smart in that way, basically. But you have to be able to create that impression of life. That's it.
Definitely. So another, key question here is that obviously skill is very important, and it's really crucial for an artist to be skillful at, at what your goal is, pretty much, right? Like if you're a modeler or if you're an animator or whatever, right? So this is like assuming this is done, and I'm sure you talk about this a lot with your students as well. So just like curious about your insight, like what kind of portfolio advice you would normally give to your to your community, and like what are, let's say, the key requirements from your perspective, because you normally work with really very very advanced artists that are definitely not at the beginner level. Actually, like, this is, I think, a must to know.
Yeah. And it's I would say that I was never like part of a group of supervisors, for example, like reviewing portfolios, right? What I can talk is always about my personal experience as an artist, so coming from the other side. And the thing is, like, you don't need to be, how can I say that? I even posted this on Facebook the other day. The thing is, like, this industry is filled with people, right? There's a lot of artists out there, but like super talented artists, very, very talented artists, like they are rare, okay? There's a lot of very competent artists, very good technicians, but like someone with the extreme like artistic abilities and stuff, it's kind of rare still. So you're gonna find out that you don't need to be like, for example, you look at someone's artwork and you don't need to, struggle and say like, oh man, I'm never gonna get there because I'm not at that level and stuff. I tell people, just apply to those jobs. It's like if you look at the job, there's a job offer, put the best stuff that you have at the moment. It's probably gonna get better after a few months and stuff, but put your best stuff forward and apply. A lot of people get in this industry, and I was like, and the thing is, like, now it's different from before. I mean, like before people were hired like, it's like as staff, and nowadays it's per project. So I mean, like you can get into a project and not get into the next one, but when you get into a project, then it's a chance to develop more skills, it's like, and to get more experience. But out of my own personal experience, what helped me was always my personal work. And that's the thing that I try to focus and keep focusing. Even when I'm completely exhausted from professional work, at the end of the day, because this is what saved me many times, you know. It saved me doing like relationship breakups, you know, it's like in the past. You know, it's like a friend of mine told me one day that your artwork is your mistress, you know. There is no, yeah, I mean, like it's the dominatrix right there, like it's just like, you know. uh, and that's what keeps me afloat, you know. It's like if everything is falling apart as our society and the world right now, you know, it's like that's a good place to escape to, you know,
Yeah.
something that nobody can take from you, you know. It's like you get, you know, it's like as you get more known in this industry, you get more hate, you know. It's like you get people to hate you, sometimes for no reason, just for the fact that you're doing something, you know. It's like you're teaching some classes and you're making money with that. Then you become a bad person because you're not giving everything away for free, you know.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Of
like
course.
people
Oh,
like,
of course.
yeah.
Yeah.
So but the thing is, like, back to the portfolio, I mean, like, try to keep the focus in your personal work, you know. It's like that's the way to evolve. Make sure you post at Instagram, ArtStation, and Facebook. I would say those are the three ones that you get more visibility these days, you know. CG Society is still pretty cool, you know. It's like it's just that uh, they went from being like super huge to a forum that people don't visit that much, you know. It's like, which is kind of sad. But I would say, like, it's still, you know, it's like posting there. Also, Zebra Central became a little bit interesting because before the forum was super visited, it was huge, and they changed their format. And for some reason, I mean, the number of views is not the same, the interaction is not the same anymore. But what's cool about it is that even though you don't get the feedback right there at Zebra Central, if the work is featured, normally they plug that on Instagram, and at Instagram they have like over 200,000 people following them, and you end up getting a lot of visibility through Instagram, more than you would get from Zebra Central. So the important thing is, like, keep posting your stuff. The measure if the work is good is going to come in a sense of feedback that you're going to get from the community, and also like front pages and stuff. So if you're not getting a lot of feedback, positive feedback or praises or front pages, you know, you still have to keep working on it, you know. But then, but as soon as you get
Really
some
good
of
point.
this, then basically you have the measure, you know. It's like, so you know you are in a good spot to actually, you know, try. But even before that, I mean, like, I know so many artists who don't post anything and they are amazing artists, you know. It's like I work with people like that. I work with people like that. They are not known at all, and they're incredible artists, you know. So there's this thing, you know. It's like some people don't want to bother, actually, you know. It's like if you post something online, that's gonna come with a lot of questions after that, and that's gonna come with some hate as well, you know. It's like there's a lot of stuff that happens online, and I'm doing this like since 2002, I believe. So it's almost like 20 years. And I remember, like, for years, I just didn't want to post or share anything because it's just too much trouble, you know?
Yeah. Building on top of that, there is a question from somebody else from the community, and his name is Graffiti 3D Art. Well, yeah, actually, I forgot what was his real name. He just like participated in our challenge. Well, anyway, so the question was, anyway, just saying,
troll detected. All right.
So, how to fight depression when companies steal to rebound you even when your skills are good. I mean, it's kind of, you know, like a little bit related with what you're saying, that, you know, it's not guaranteed that somebody will notice you right away. So that kind of means that you need to work more, but you kind of think that your skills are already there. I don't know. What's your take? What do you think?
When it comes like professional work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like, so just in general, how to just like fight depression and keep going and keep learning if you're already like exhausted from all this.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm gonna try to talk about it, but let's see if I can get somewhere. But in terms of, like, if you're working professionally, like in a company, the first thing you have to know if you're an aspiring artist is that the work is never yours, right? A lot of people take that too personally if someone changes their work. And that's a recipe for depression. So you start avoiding depression by not taking anything personal when you go to, you know, do some work. What you try to do when you're in a company is actually there's a director, there's a bunch of investors behind it, like people actually pouring the money into that, and there's a lot of contamination. You know, it's like basically like the art director sometimes is not the guy calling the shots. Sometimes like the director has some personal ideas about how things should, be taken. And sometimes the director doesn't have like a strong artistic background, like a visual artistic background. Or for example, or sometimes like some investors who have no background in art at all,
Yes.
but they have the money to, to produce the project. Then they have their personal ideas about how things should work. And then so basically like you are hit by a waterfall. It's basically like this domino effect that comes like all the way from the top until you're the little guy right there. And you're just trying to make things work for whoever has the most power at the moment, right? So someone is calling the shots and they want something to go in a certain way. And as an artist that's not the best approach. That creature would look much cooler if it was a different approach. But then you just say, yeah, I accept that. It's not my work, right?
Yeah.
Just do it. And then if you have any frustration from that, you just go and do a personal piece. Yeah. And you post it, and people are gonna be like, "Oh man, that's really cool," and I wish they went that way or something. So you can always do that, It's like, but in terms of fighting depression, I mean, like artists, especially artists who try to improve constantly, I think we are depressed by nature. It's like it's this thing about we are too hard on ourselves, like a lot hard on ourselves. Yeah. There is a thing that we only learned very late in life, I suppose. That's like there is no perfection. There's no such thing as perfection. And being a perfectionist is very counterproductive, But the thing is, like, I take my own, art, for example, and I say, I'm never happy with anything that I do, right? I finish something, next day I'm unhappy. I want to tweak and stuff. But that comes like as part of the struggle trying to get better, But at some point we have to make peace that's part of the process, It's like you're going to go through ups and downs. It's the same with like relationships, right? Like you are in a great spot now, and then there is like any specific pet peeve that shows up, and then all of a sudden like you're crushed, and the relationship is like, oh my God, that's such in a bad spot right now. And then later on it's like you rediscover, the good stuff, and then you kind of like start seeing the good stuff more than you're seeing the bad stuff. And it's the same with your artwork, So sometimes you start seeing just the bad stuff and everything that's wrong about it. And then you get like into that very dark place, right? And then if you wait for that wave to pass, being, not by waiting passively, but just like doing more work, but without adding too much pressure on yourself, just like doing work for the sake of like, this is my therapy. I need to keep doing it because it's good for me, right?
Yeah.
Eventually that wave passes, and then for a brief period of time, you're kind of like in love with the stuff that you're doing, not because it looks cool, but because like, oh, I just learned this new technique. And then seems like now from this point on, things going to be much, much easier because now I get it the way it should work. And you actually can work across different models. And that goes into, later on you see someone else's work and they was like, oh man, yeah, that looks much cooler. Maybe I can experiment with something like that. And then you kind of go back to, a slightly darker place. But I mean, like that's life, It's like there is no way to stay out of depression, It's like it's gonna, anything in your life, like eventually is gonna drive you to that place. But I think the important lesson is to actually learn that it's part of it, It's like, and just stay on it and ride that bad wave, and then eventually you're gonna, a better wave is gonna come, and that's it. And it was always like this for me in my life. I mean, like every time I got hit by something big, like some event, like a death of a relative or whatever, It's like I always like stayed in there and then felt the pain. Absolutely, you have to feel the pain deeply. If you go through something, feel that pain deeply. Don't try to mask anything. Don't try to, it's like try to divert attention. It's like if you are in the middle of something, like you're depressed, I would say like obviously, so make sure that you're okay physically and all this stuff, but feel it completely, so I can deal with that, and then you come out of those situations a much better person, a much stronger. And then the next time you have a similar event happen, you're just like, yeah, I went through that. I know I'm strong enough to come out of it. So, it's like same with art. I mean, like be there and keep doing your work. And and don't do for the sake of becoming famous or rich, because you're probably not going to get rich in this industry anyway.
Okay.
We do
That's
this
really
for
good to know.
yeah, we do this for, for the love we have for art, it's like, and the love we have communicating with other people, like even if you indirectly, right? Like you create something, you create it for yourself, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're communicating with people, right? Like the work is always an interface that communicates your inner feelings or your style or something,
Yeah.
and it's communicated to other people towards your work. So that's it.
Love that. I think it's actually a great way of putting it. Like you're not sure if you're gonna get somewhere, but I think you did, definitely. No, I really like like the metaphor of like staying for a little while in a happier place and then like trying to drag yourself a little bit back in and experiment a little more. It's I think it's really valid. And so I hope we got to answer the question. Kris, we actually have a little tradition here of doing 10 quick questions by the end. And so it's like a little questionnaire, and you have a few words or like just a couple of phrases to answer each one of these questions.
Okay.
So, like really quick. And I'm gonna one of these questions today again like is gonna be donated by public, and the other 9 are pretty traditional. They're always here. So ready when you
I'm gonna try. I talk so much, man. I'm gonna try.
That's fine. If you talk too much, I'm just gonna
yeah, just chop. Censorship.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just kidding here as well. Shall we?
Yeah, let's go.
So why does your name sound so Indian?
Because it's an Indian name. Yeah, it's like
Okay.
The quick explanation is that my father, he went through a lot of I don't know if I can do that quickly, but I mean, like, he had like a condition. He had a heart problem, and he knew that he would not last very long, so he died when he was 32. And he got into a lot of philosophy, and a lot of stuff that he started reading were about like Indian philosophy. And then he discovered Jiddu Krishnamurti, which is this philosopher he fell in love with. And then he told my mom that that's the name he wanted for me, and he died 2 months before I was born. So I was basically like that.
Wow, what a story!
So that's like a gift that I got from him, and it brought me a lot of luck,
Wow, that's impressive. I didn't expect this story right now,
Yeah, there you go.
Well, yeah. Okay. So the next one is, what's your number one tip for combating distractions when working from home?
Combating what?
Distractions.
Oh, distractions.
Like, procrastination and stuff.
Oh man, it's like I don't have a tip because I'm all over the place. I'm a multitasker. So if I'm working on something, I'm doing a lot of other stuff on the side. It's like I think like it's just like you have to actually force yourself to do the work, because in the middle of the process you can rediscover joy. Sometimes you stop yourself from starting something because you're going to get frustrated or something, and that should not be the approach. You just go ahead and start doing the job, and if in the middle of it you decide that doesn't work for you, that's fine. But sometimes you're going to be surprised. Sometimes you just like discover, it's going a very interesting way. I enjoyed this. So.
It's like, I actually like it.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, next, what's your favorite tradition or holiday?
Traditional holiday. Well, I think like my tradition, things that I enjoy doing is like barbecuing with the family. It's like I barbecue, every weekend, and then that's something I enjoy doing.
Love that. And what's your favorite way of getting in some exercise?
Exercise, physical exercise. Wow.
Physical,
so
like actual physical exercise.
So I used to work out at work at lunchtime. It's like, so I was doing this for a few years. I got hurt, my clavicle got hurt, and I stopped completely for over a year. And just now with the pandemic, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I just got a bunch of weights and in a little machine. Actually, it's in the garage. I installed everything, and I started my workout routine before yesterday. So today's going to be my 3rd day. So I let you know, like in a few months, like when I show up this big, right? That That yeah, but yeah.
Next
Before,
time you're not fitting in the Zoom screen.
oh no, gonna be wide, right? But yeah, I wasn't working out, but now I'm working out. My shoulder still hurts, but I'm going. I don't care. I don't care.
Huge
That's
congrats. Huge congrats.
thanks. Thanks.
Great step. Okay. So what's your most used emoji?
Emoji. I would say is the laugh.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one that's rolling laugh or just like a straight laugh?
I mean, like it can be either. I mean, like it's like
just laugh.
Facebook. I mean, like we go back and forth with memes. It's like that's the stuff that keeps things light. And I love those. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. What's the worst haircut you've ever had?
Oh, the worst haircut. It's probably the one that I keep doing myself, like over and over and over again, which is like basically like going like in full on, like just buzzing it. Sometimes I get, it's like I try to get the hair a little bit longer, and then you start getting it becomes a mess very soon, right? Like it's straight but slightly waved, and it's like gets weird. And I was like, oh, it's just too much to deal with, so I just like buzz it. And then right after I buzz it, I go, I hate it. but I keep doing it. So I don't know.
Okay, well, fine. Good. So next one is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
That's a good question, man. Let me think for a second. Yeah, I would say like one of the best ones is the one I told you guys, like don't take things personally when it comes like to professional work.
Okay.
That saves you a lot of pain. Trust me.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. And if you were to design your own t-shirt, what would it say? Oh
man, that's an interesting one.
Well, you can put it. You can put a graphic as well. It doesn't have to be like a phrase. It can be like an image. It can be your purchase as well.
Wow, that's an interesting one, huh? Because nowadays, I mean, like the way that everything is so polarized and people are so politicized, like everything is politics nowadays.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
It's almost like I didn't want to have anything in my shirt at all.
Like white, plain white.
Yeah. I think like a plain. The thing is, like, I really enjoy plain white tees that have no message. One thing I noticed is that when I moved to the United States, people pay too much attention to what you're wearing. It's almost like they expect your shirt to have this message that represents you as a human being. And in Brazil, I mean, like we would just wear stuff because it looked cool, just like it doesn't matter what it says. It's just like, oh, it looks cool. Let's just wear it. And here, everybody judges you. It's like if you're, it's like wearing a shirt. I was like, no, the blank shirt. I mean, like back in the day, I used to meditate, and then meditation brings this thing, right? It was Zazen, actually. It was Zen meditation. It's like it's this thing about getting rid of anything that you have in your mind. It's like it's just like and accepting the thoughts as they come, and just like let them pass as a little movie. So I mean, like a clear mind is the only way to have a space for new ideas to come in. It's like if you have your mind completely made up about something, it's like there's no way you can actually learn anything new. So a shirt, I think it would be like a blank shirt. That would be good.
Amazing. So if you could see one movie again for the first time, which movie would you watch?
For the first time? Wow. I would say if I had to choose like a movie to watch like forever, to my last days, it would be a bunch of comedies that I really like the Monty Python stuff. I would say like the Holy Grail, and I love the Meaning of Life as well. But I would say like the Holy Grail and Life of Brian, probably the Holy Grail the best. And I would watch that one over and over again as as a new thing, because the emotions that caused me when I first watched, they're pretty amazing.
All right, amazing. And the last one from me is if you could choose a couple of famous people to have dinner with, who would you hang out with? I mean, it could be one or two people, just like.
Oh yeah, can be like a dead or alive.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I would say like probably the old masters. Like. I would say like I would love to have like a meal with Michelangelo or Bernini, you know, it's like,
they're actually pretty popular in this community for people to have dinner with.
or Da Vinci, you know. It's like the thing about Michelangelo that's interesting to me, like in terms of personality, that guy it's very intriguing to me, you know. It's like because he has like a very interesting style, you know. It's like my art teacher, he used to talk about his style when it comes like to anatomy, for example, and he said that. And I agree with that, you know, it's like the way that he plays with the hierarchy and the structures that we know. For example, like if you look at the Pietà, right? Like, and you see this beautiful piece. And the thing is like, it's all about how powerful that mom is, you know. It's like she's represented like this gigantic, her mass, like she is really huge. And as most of the human women that he sculpted, you know, it's like they have like massive arms, very masculine features. And very strong, represented very strong. And the males, like very feminine kind of looking and very fragile, right? So I like you know, it's like I would like to talk to him and know what's going on with his mind, you know, it's like to represent that way. If it was something that, you know, it's like a strong love for his mom. I don't know what was going on, but the thing is like, it was always like very striking. Jesus is represented like as this child. It's like this little baby in her arms and she's gigantic, you know? And a lot of his work was like that. And also the fact that the guy, he knows like he wasn't very nice, apparently, based on the literature. But at the same time, there are letters of people like close to him, family, saying that he was actually a really concerned with his family. You know, it's like he would get like super devastated when the family died and stuff. He was kind of connected to his family, you know. And he was a businessman as well. He had lots of real estate. He bought a bunch of properties and stuff because he was one of the darlings from the church, right? So, I mean, like, there's a lot around that guy that I would like to know more about.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
Probably Michelangelo.
Yeah, probably one dinner wouldn't be enough, but would definitely.
Oh, yeah.
You could definitely step your feet in the door.
Yeah.
With Michelangelo back then. All right. Well, that's amazing. Kris, thanks so much. I've learned a lot actually, and not only 3D. You know, like thanks so much for coming on the show. I'm pretty sad that we've got to round up because we're literally like 1 minute over time. But it's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Maria. Great opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah. All righty. Cheers. And
Cheers.
Welcome again. Next time.
Next time. Yeah.
Of course.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Art Heroes Podcast. Check out www.artheroes.co for show notes, more interviews, and free tools made for you by our team of mentors. Tune in next week for more inspiration, and keep up the great work, hero.